All right, so we've arrived at the start of the siding at Pearl. So here we are looking back towards the north, or to the east if you want to call it. And so as we pan back this way here, we can see this fairly large swamp that the railway had to build through. So building railways through this type of geography is fairly common in this area. There tends to be lots of very swampy areas like this, and then intermingled with a lot of rock cuts. And so we'll walk a little ways down on part of this grade. You can see the amount of construction that had to go into building this. This probably would all had to been filled with rock. Maybe at one time it might have been a trestle, a wood trestle, and then laboriously filled in. You can actually see a few neat little things over here. You can actually see a couple of the cribs supporting the poles for the telegraph and then eventually telephone line, which eventually were removed. So you can see one here, and there's one just further up over there. And you can see the fairly straight nature of the grade in this area here. This swamp here was filled with geese and a couple of herons. When I first came through, unfortunately, I spooked them a little bit and took off. You can see over here another one of the cribs for the telegraph pole. And I believe here we can actually see the start of the siding. So you can see this little indentation here on the side of the grade. And this siding stretched on for several hundred meters here, and we're going to come back to it very shortly. Once we get to a really interesting section of the grade, you can actually see as the bike bounces through all of the indentations from the ties. Okay, so we've moved just slightly to the south, probably about 50 meters or so from our last location, and we're still on the siding here at Pearl. And as we pan here to the south, following the grade and following the siding here, you can actually see there's a little bit of a rock cut on the east side of the grade. Probably about 25 feet or so in height. And the swamp that we just passed sort of comes to an end here. And as you're going to see here in a second, things get a little bit messy. And so the grade continues this way. Now, unfortunately, there was likely a culvert. Not likely, there was a culvert here for the creek coming out or in of the swamp. And you can see, unfortunately, here it's been blown out. And so you can see a couple pieces of culvert here. You can see there's a spike down here, and you can see a mess that's here. I don't know if these were piles of ties that were left behind, or if they probably look like ties. There's one over there. And certainly there was a flood that came through here, and maybe with the culvert plugged up, blew everything out and took out this whole section of the grade. Now, as we work our way back up to where the grade used to be, You can see here that there's a rock cut to our right. And the siding continues here, and then this is where things get real interesting. All right, so we're just a few meters from the washout that we just passed through in the rock cut that you can see on the left. And we're about to enter this little area here where I've said things become very, very interesting. So I pan here to the south. What we have is a problem that railway lines deal with a lot, maybe in particular this area of northwestern Ontario. We have a beaver dam. So the beaver has built a large dam which has completely flooded out the grade in the area here. And so you can see the parts of the grade here. As we make our way around, you can see the culverts that were supposed to empty the water from this area here, but no longer serve their purpose. And so this part isn't too bad, but unfortunately, as we make our way further south here, this part is just a complete disaster, and the grade is submerged under about a foot of water, and it was absolutely brutal coming this way, going to the north, and I know it's going to be brutal going back. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to put the camera on bike helmet and get a little video of how entertaining this is, and hopefully I can stay on the bike and not fall off. You almost need a fat tire bike to ride through here. The gravel is so soft underneath the ballast from the railway that it makes it very difficult to pedal. All right, so here we go. The only problem is I have to cross this beaver path right here, right off the hop, and it's going to be really interesting. The last time through this, the water's so deep that I completely soaked my feet, even with waterproof boots. So let's give her a whirl here. Need the dog to stay out of my way. This is the worst part coming up right here. Because it's deep. Hard to pedal. Feet are soaked. Holy. That was brutal. I need to be in better shape to do these. Okay, so we just made it through the section from hell. My legs are burning. I'm out of breath. My feet are just completely drenched. And so this is basically the end of the siding here at Pearl. Just up ahead here, there is a building. I'm not sure the purpose. You can see it through the trees here. I don't know if this might have been the old section house here at Pearl that somebody eventually used as a camp or a cabin. Obviously, when the train was running, the only way to access it was on the railway, so that's what makes me think it's a section house. So there it is in there. And so what we're going to do is we're going to continue following the grade to the south back towards our starting point.